There's a new player on the block. It's called Nothing. You might have heard of it. It's Carl's company, and he was one of the two OnePlus co-founders. Their first product was the Nothing Ear 1, which I have right here. Some very impressive looking earbuds. And their second product is going to be the Nothing Phone 1, which is coming next month. We already know the design of it, among some other details, and their whole argument for releasing the Phone 1 is that phones have become boring, and that someone needs to stand up to Apple, specifically Apple, and that someone is Nothing. So when it comes to its design, it is definitely a one-of-a-kind phone. So it's got this transparent back. You don't get to see the actual components, which is quite interesting, but instead, you can see these custom white metal panels covering the components. Some of the screws are visible too, so this is a very unique design. And what makes it even more unique are the light strips. Yes, this phone has a couple of LED notification lights on the back of it, which to me reminds me of Tron Legacy. It's got that specific style. And overall, this is the most futuristic phone, in terms of the back design at least, that I've seen. Teenage Engineering was involved. This is another company with a very interesting name. They were involved in the design of the Year 1 as well. Now, some people were saying that, yes, it looks pretty awesome, but the moment you put a case on it, that's when you would basically hide that really, really cool looking back. Well, according to Carl Pei, they're actually going to release a very unique case that will enhance the look of the phone rather than hiding it. So yeah, overall, I think it looks awesome, but there is one underwhelming part to it, which is the frame of the phone. So it is flat, which looks great, but it is also almost a one-to-one copy of the iPhone's frame. Like, the volume buttons look pretty much identical. Same goes for the power button, not just in shape, but also in terms of their position. And yes, I know that there's only so many ways that you can design a phone in, but still, if you change the back of this phone and you make it look more of like, the iPhone 12's back, this kind of looks like an iPhone 12. We haven't seen the front yet, but, it's quite easy to assume how that would look like with a hole punch in the middle. I think the bezels will be uniform if we go by Nothing's previous design language. We just don't know how thin those bezels will be. Now, the best looking bezels on a phone right now are the ones on the S22 and the S22 Plus. They're the thinnest, and they're also uniform all around, but it is very unlikely that Nothing will use an S22 panel. Those are way too expensive. Okay, so we know about the design, but what about the specs? Do we know anything? Well, we've seen the dual camera module on the back, which are likely to be a main and an ultra wide, and this basically screams mid-range to me. Like, this phone, just from looking at it, it doesn't seem like it's gonna be a flagship. And that makes sense. This is Nothing's first phone, so it needs to be more affordable so that a lot of people can buy it, so that they can make even better phones in the future. We do actually know that it will come with the Snapdragon 7 Gen 1 chip. This was confirmed by Nothing officially. And this is a chip specifically aimed at mid-range smartphones. In performance, it is about 20% faster GPU-wise than a Snapdragon 778. You might not have heard of this chip. It's found, again, in mid-range phones. Long story short, the Nothing Phone 1 should be in between the Pixel 5 and the Pixel 6 in terms of raw performance if we just look at some benchmarks for the 778 chip. Personally, I don't think that's going to be an issue because the Pixel 5 was crazy fluid, and we already know that this will be more powerful than that. So if they focus on heavily optimizing the UI and the software experience, I think this is gonna be fine. Okay, display-wise, we have a 6.5-inch Full HD Plus AMOLED display with a 90 Hz refresh rate, so that's great. They did talk about fluidity and the smooth experience on this, so 90 Hz is required for that. And then in terms of the cameras, we don't know for sure, but the leaks are saying that the main will be a 64 megapixel module, which is typical for mid-range smartphones, and then the ultra-wide will be a 12 megapixel module. So all of this sounds okay. But something that really made me interested in this phone is this specific spec, the fast charging. So it's gonna come with 45 watts of wired charging and then 15 watts wireless charging. 45 watts is more than double of what the iPhone 13 supports. So this should allow for a charge of 50% in maybe like 20 minutes or 15 minutes. So that'll be super awesome, especially on a mid-range phone. Of course, that there's, better options and faster charging smartphones from Xiaomi, Redmi, and so on, but this is still pretty good. I think I would be quite curious to see if they include this charger in the box or if they include it as a separate purchase. But okay, I think the big question is, who is this phone aimed at? And the answer is Apple users. Interesting enough, Nothing has said that they see this as an alternative to the iPhone. They haven't really specifically said an alternative to the other Android phones, but to the iPhone. But this is how CarPlay has been pitching it as. A phone with a very clean look that is simple to use, with a very minimalistic software, a launcher essentially, that, by the way, anyone can use. You can download it now. It's got a unique look to it, that's for sure. You have this dotted text pattern and some unique widgets. It is very, very simplistic and extremely bare bones, but it is definitely unique and easy to use. But the big thing that I really want to focus on is the ecosystem. They want to create an ecosystem that targets and competes with Apple's, and they want to get there one day. But can they really achieve an Apple-like ecosystem? Well, I think it depends on the products. To have an ecosystem, you need a lot of products that also work really well together. At the moment, they have the earbuds, they're gonna have the phone, but they also need way more than that. So they'll need a watch, they'll need a tablet, and they'll need a laptop. And I guess maybe then you need to remember that you also need an amazing integration between these. With Apple, we have stuff like AirDrop, continuity. So Apple has a very strong software integration. Can Nothing do it? They need a big software team, and at the moment they just don't have that. So I'm a bit skeptical at the moment, but if it goes all well with the sales of this phone, then maybe one day they will have a big enough software team to be able to create features like this. You also need to remember that Nothing wants their ecosystem to be more open than Apple's, so theirs will work with other products. Of course, the design style will be unique, but it won't be as open as Google's or Samsung's, at least from what Nothing has been saying. But okay, can the Nothing Phone 1 be the iPhone killer? Well, I think that's a very cringe thing to say, because it's not like the iPhone is the most supreme phone. There's multiple iPhones, and Samsung has some amazing choices. The reason why a lot of manufacturers keep saying iPhone killer is because the iPhone is, as you probably know, extremely popular. And for the Nothing Phone 1 to be the iPhone killer, it needs to be as popular, at least as popular as the iPhone, which I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. They definitely have a very strong hype machine, 100%. Like, they're now doing a deal with StockX. Essentially, they have 100 Nothing Phone 1s, which are engraved. And then you can purchase those through StockX to sort of give them like this unattainable product feel, which I guess the first 100 engraved ones would be, but you get what I mean. Like, they're trying to create this narrative of a very, very unique, hard to obtain luxury product. If we look at the Nothing Ear 1, they sold 530,000 units, which is huge for a startup. Now, in terms of the Nothing Phone 1, last year they claimed that they ordered 700,000 screens for it. But now they said that they increased this even more thanks to more funding. So maybe they bumped it to 1 million. Selling 1 million phones times $700, which is my guess for the price, $699, that would be $700 million in revenue, which is huge. And I know that they will have some R&D costs, of course, but still, this is massive for a startup. So I'm a bit skeptical that they will be able to sell this many units, as phones are much more difficult to sell than, earbuds, and also much more difficult to manufacture. Also, I don't expect the camera to be anything great because it needs a lot of expertise in the processing department, and I just don't think Nothing has that. But overall, I'm hopeful, and I really want to see a company other than Apple try to create this ecosystem of products. And that may be Nothing. The only problem is that other companies like Google and Samsung are also trying to do that, and they're doing pretty well at the moment, Microsoft as well. So I guess we'll have to wait and see if Nothing can catch up with those companies and then exceed those to eventually catch up with Apple. But yeah, I would love to hear your thoughts on the Nothing Phone 1, and yeah, definitely stay tuned for maybe a hands-on video as soon as we get it. I'm Daniel, this has been ZONEofTECH, and I'll see you guys in the next one. ZONEofTECH, signing out. Cheers.